Rovich. I'm the director of the Alumni Engagement Department here at Oakland University, and I am joined by our esteemed guest, Dr. Robert Martin, who we are so pleased to have join us. We're going to be talking about the view of popular media's reflection of culture and differences in the USA, how that relates to societal trends. And I'm sure if you're joining us just now after you viewed the lecture portion on YouTube, that it was very thought provoking. And I'm sure there are a lot of questions out there. So we're excited to have you join us, Dr. Martin. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I am so excited about this evening. I've really been looking forward to this, and I've especially been looking forward to having some live and robust discussion and back and forth.
Well, you're going to be here with a number of our Oakland University alumni who are always known to be curious and thoughtful in their questions. And so we're excited to have all of them participate. If I can draw everyone's attention to the chat bar, that's where you can be posting your questions as we go through this live Q&A session with Dr. Martin, and we will get to as many of those as we can. But certainly, as we get started, Dr. Martin, I have to tell you, I'm a big fan of Dead Poet Society. So I was glad to see you pull that in. But really, what made you choose those movies, Dead Poet Society and Crash? Like, how does that, really set a foundation for this dialogue today?
Well, first, I want to say that like you, am a big fan of Dead Poet Society. I think that it was well done and had some wonderful messages and meaning within it. But as I looked back and I was beginning to think about past and present, I also felt that it was an excellent representation of the past in that it was male dominated,
Mhm.
male dominated. Um, Females played very, very secondary roles in that movie, and there were no minorities of any note. And that is not our present, where Crash was well done. It won the Academy Award that year for Best Picture and really represented a diverse perspective, ethnicities, gender, and but yet both of them were unresolved. Neither of them offered uh, a solution, a path toward a future of collaborative and community. So they seem to be perfect examples of what I was trying to get to with using the example of ragtime.
Oh, absolutely. So we actually have a question here already. Emily has asked if there are current TV shows that utilize the we ideal that you mentioned. Can you speak to that?
Yes, yes. Um, I spoke a bit about that. One of the past TV shows that I think really look toward that idealized we, Star Trek,
Mm,
the original Star Trek, and the wonderful casting that they did, which they ran into some resistance, but the creator really pushed forward with that. And I think I'm so grateful that he did, Roddenberry. And I would say right now, the type of casting that I'm looking at that has more of that idealized we. If you look at the Marvel series,
mhm.
the Avengers with moving forward with Black Panther and moving forward with strong women, strong minority characters. Also, TV shows, although Marvel does do that. Runaways is a TV show that has a multicultural cast where they are each strong and brilliant, and they have their own gifts that they contribute to the community, to the family that they call. Their version of we is family. So Runaways is one that I look to. Also, Cloak and Dagger. These are all shows that are not on mainline TV, but are part of the cable series and the
Mhm.
series that you subscribe to.
Yeah, I think we may, by the end of this, need to pull out your top 10 list, perhaps. We've got another question from Emily. How can we change the discourse to focus on the we? What do you think about that?
Yeah, and that's really what I was hoping to get at, Emily, with my recommendations. The interesting part is that there's an inward and an outward focus. There's some inward work that we each need to do. We've got to decide, who are we as an individual? Who am I? And who do I want to be? So it's the individual level of those questions. Who was I in the past? Who am I now? And who do I aspire to become? Part of that, really understanding who I am and how do I process difference. Do I process difference as something to be inquisitive about, curious about, or do I process difference with fear? And then really taking that step to get to know, to listen, to understand, and really try to connect with someone that is different from you. It doesn't mean that we have to agree 100%. It doesn't mean that you have to change 100%, but it does need to be more about that we. Who do we want to become as a society?
So, do you think then, this is a question that we had learned earlier. Do you think, does ragtime speak to that, that direction that we want to go, to that we? Does that, does ragtime showcase more of that we that you are talking about then?
I think it does. I think it elevates it to a certain degree. Of course, it's not perfect in the analogy, but I think so. Um, One of the things, and I loved seeing the musical Ragtime. One of the things that startled me when I went back to prepare for this presentation was at the beginning in that prologue. I didn't include it in this clip, but I mentioned it in the presentation. They were very blatant in that, there were no Negroes, there were no immigrants. And so they started off staunchly against it. Where at the end, the blended family, and here that family as the metaphor we, comes from mother, the white, middle class, wealthy mom marrying the immigrant man, and their blended families together, his immigrant daughter, her son, and the black child that they adopt. And the interesting thing is that the we that they idealize is that the immigrant father has the goal or the vision that his prototype family becomes the Little Rascals series that used to be on TV, where there were multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-gender, all of them looked different. They weren't typecasting. This wonderful mosaic, that bricolage that I talk about. That so I think ragtime points us toward that we. I don't think it makes it perfectly, but I think it points us in the right direction.
I love the description of mosaic, because also mosaic to me implies beauty, and really coming togetherness, right? We've got one last question that we're going to take here, and this comes directly from our Oakland University Alumni Association. Do you have some everyday tips that we can practice to be more in tune um, with some of the things that you're describing about, that family and that acceptance and that mosaic, essentially, right?
I really do. They may seem very basic and very simple because, reflecting is not very deep in the sense, although I do think that the results are deep, but it's not this major strategy. Listening is something that we can do every day. But I'd like to add one more thing. I think we need to notice. Sometimes I don't think we take the time to notice each other and
Mm.
to really hear what we're saying. Or sometimes people speak through behavior and actions louder than they do through words. So noticing can really, really make a big difference. I will tell you that as a Black man who is 64 years old, going on 65 in a few months, it is readily apparent when I meet someone of a different race or culture and they are fearful of me.
Mm.
They don't have to say anything, they don't have to give me dirty looks, but the stiffness of the body language, the distance, that they almost either subconsciously or instinctively place is readily apparent.
Mm.
So that I would encourage, if you are trying to really get to know and build toward that we, that family community, that we really work on our instinctive reactions and try to counter and change those reactions.
I think those are really great words to close with. Absolutely. Well, we appreciate that you were a part of this week, this series of sessions that we're calling Faculty After Five. Certainly, we appreciate you, Dr. Martin, and thank you so much for all of this session. It was really some great discussion and dialogue, and I think with that we are